Pirates, seafaring thieves and murderers that have been turned into jolly sailors by pop culture. Let's see if we can turn them into something weird. Me hearties! The week of this video's release will be International Talk Like a Parrot Day. So why don't we celebrate by reimagining parrots through speculative biology? What is that you say? They are people on ships? Nonsense, never heard anything like that. So now, please hit those like and subscribe buttons, lest ye walk the plank. And now, without further ado, let's set sail. Since ancient times, the seas have been a symbol of boundless freedom and unending reprieve from the trappings of society. And yet, who could pretend that the seas of the world are the domain of mankind? Many species have traveled these waters long before we did, and with far more success. And today we shall meet not just one of them, but possibly one of the most magnificent beings to ever cross the seas. Macrophysalia melahistion, the galleons. These colonial organisms are relatives of the Portuguese man-o-war, and are an important part of the Newton, the organisms that live on the water surface, being found across the tropical waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Galleons are equipped with abundant pneumatophores, or gas-filled bladders, all across its surface, and a large underwater portion helps displace enough water for these giant siphonophores to remain in a floating position. Most noticeably, the feature that will be first visible as they approach from the distance is their huge sails, formed from extended epidermis that catches the wind, propelling the massive body of the galleon forward. Its dark coloration is the result of melanin-like pigments, which protect its sensitive epidermis from constant exposure to the sun. These massive organisms, as usually happens in nature, would end up attracting more biota towards itself, forming tiny ecosystems aboard them. You may see in this illustration many spindly forms running across the galleon's surface. These are Anthrosphex maritima, also known as the Parrot wasps. Close relatives of the skeleton wasps, these insects have developed a symbiotic relationship with the galleons, and will spend the entirety of their lives on the siphonophores' bodies. Their anatomy shows well these adaptations to life on the high seas. Their topmost pair of limbs has adapted into hooked appendages that help them hold on to their host's tissues, while their middle pair has become a couple of paddles that allow them to swim if needed be. That said, their sharp edge does give it a great defensive use as well. While it is believed these wasps originally used the galleons simply to raft across the seas in search of new territories, in modern times they will stay and hunt atop the colony, protecting it from potential predators that would gladly rip off pieces of the galleon. Upon seeing a potential danger too large to be entangled in the galleon's tentacles, the parrot wasps will take to the water and quickly dispatch the predator using their venomous stings, to then rip it apart on top of their floating vessel to feed. In exchange, the galleon will produce a nutrient-rich secretion to supplement the wasp's diet, utilizing the remains of its own prey. This secretion is colloquially known as grog or sea rum, and that name is more literal than it may seem at first glance, as there are times when this grog, left too long in the sun, will begin fermenting, turning into a highly alcoholic beverage. Should a parrot wasp feed on this fermented grog, it will quickly become inebriated, a behavior the rest of the group cannot tolerate. Similar to what is seen in other social insects, the wasps will grab the offender, remove their limbs, and throw them off the galleon to die, and sometimes even to be captured by the galleon itself, thus finally explaining what it is we do with a drunken sailor. And wherever these wasps go, you will see the privateer bird, Cytophragata parasitica, predatory parrots that have evolved into a kleptoparasitic lifestyle, stealing catches from other, smaller and less imposing species. While they will freely travel across the coast in search of prey, They are known to hang around galleons in wait for any pieces of prey they can get their beaks on. These birds are very smart, and know well when to approach in order to avoid being targeted by the wasps. The galleons spend all their time floating across the ocean, using their venom to paralyze fish and small invertebrates before reeling them towards their digestive zoids. However, when mating season arrives, large numbers of galleons will congregate, their weakening bodies drifting on the ocean's currents until finding more of its own. Galleons, like manowars, are dioecious, meaning each colony is either male or female, and will need their gametes to meet those of others to reproduce. This is the purpose of these massive congregations, with the galleons melding into one another as their gonozoids release their gametes. Once this process is completed, the galleon will completely lose its form, its zoids combining with those of the rest of the aggregated mass. This giant, rotting breeding colony will be incredibly toxic, preventing even the most determined predators from feeding on the immature colonies until they have developed their own defenses and buoyancy, thus continuing their life cycle. While all of this is going on, the parrot wasps will also meet atop the floating colony, with males dancing in order to display their good health to females. They will be aided by a large head ornament that indicates they are mature enough to reproduce, including a large plume-like growth, composed of hair-like filaments. Younger males will merely have red patches, only developing this plume upon reaching maturity. Once mating has been completed, females will lay their eggs inside the galleon aggregate, and when the eggs hatch, the tiny larvae will feed on the colony itself, eventually growing big and strong enough to populate their own galleons and set sail once again. Alas, mighty as these animals are, the galleons are not immune to the attention of larger predators. As mentioned earlier, the parrot wasps will protect the galleons from some predators, but not all of them are as easy to deal with. Some animals are mighty enough to sink even one of these vessels, and among these, there are many species of cephalopod that have specialized on galleons. When faced with such a threat, the galleon will depend on an amazing line of defense. All around the colony are a series of specialized cnidocytes, stinger-bearing zoids, which will shoot a very painful stinger towards the attacker. With this behavior in mind, it is no surprise that many times human vessels have been attacked by these animals, mistaking them for potential predators, with the wasps boarding the ship and joining on the attack. And that's it for Speculative Biology Look into Parrots. This one has been on the plans for a while over on our Discord server, and the idea of turning these maritime bandits into spec-evo creatures was an absolutely delightful concept. And when we add to that the idea of making the parrots themselves into skeletons, giving them a giant living vessel, and, thanks to the idea by our patrons, even living parrot islands and parrots, the whole concept was too good to just let that ship sail. So I hope ye landlovers enjoyed this trip to the horrors of the Seven Seas, and do let me know if ye have any ideas for other sea beasties you would like to hear about in our merry shanties. Here's a thank you to everyone who wanted to see this episode. And also, thank you to all the members of our crew who support us through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Remember, you too can join in if you want to support our channel, and you get some nice perks too, like seeing all of our creatures and videos ahead of time and helping mold them into shape. Or you can also like, subscribe, or write a comment telling me any type of creature you would like me to give the Spec-Evo treatment in the show, savvy? But before you go, remember pirates be threading not only the high seas, but also the high internet, putting you at risk of losing your information. But you can be protected with today's sponsor, NordVPN. Whenever you are online, you risk your information falling into the hands of all sorts of scallywags and scurvy dogs, like hackers. NordVPN helps protect you by changing your IP address, securing online traffic through encryption, blocking malware and trackers, warning you if your data has been compromised, and a ton more benefits. sending all dangers of surfing the web to Davy Jones's locker. So click the link in the description and get NordVPN to regain your internet security, and also support the channel in the process. Anyways, that'd be all for today. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time on the Speculative Wildlife Research Center.